Everyone, I'm Katrina Navalio, Program Manager at the ASEAN-Japan Center. Welcome to the ninth episode of our ASEAN-Japan Insights webinar series entitled Cybersecurity Readiness of Critical Infrastructure in the Age of AI. Critical infrastructure, including energy, transport, finance, and communications, sustains daily life and economic stability. As AI becomes more embedded in these systems, the cyber risk landscape is rapidly evolving. Threats are scaling, attacks are becoming more automated, and the consequences of disruption are rising. Co-organized with the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center, today's session will examine AI-enabled cyber threats, Japan's experience in strengthening safeguards for critical infrastructure, and practical lessons to support resilience across ASEAN member states and Japan. We will also look at policy frameworks, technical approaches, and the readiness challenges that require coordination and trust, where closer ASEAN-Japan cooperation can make a material difference. The ASEAN-Japan Insights series is the center's platform to share timely, actionable perspectives on key ASEAN-Japan issues, drawing on leaders and experts from government, industry, and academia and the wider region. The webinar will be conducted in English with simultaneous interpretation in Japanese. Should you like to listen in another language, please click the interpretation button in Zoom and choose either English or Japanese. The webinar is recorded and will be available for later viewing in our website. To formally begin our discussion, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Chairat Liangtajornkiet, Director of Program Operations at the ASEAN-Japan Center. Mr. Chairat, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the ASEAN-Japan Center, it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Cybersecurity Readiness of Critical Infrastructure in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, organized under the ASEAN-Japan Insights series and co-organized with the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center, or AJCCBC. We are very pleased to collaborate with AJCCBC, and we sincerely thank our colleagues for their strong support and close cooperation in making this webinar possible. Their continued efforts in cybersecurity capacity building and regional cooperation play an important role in strengthening resilience across ASEAN and Japan. As digitalization and the use of artificial intelligence accelerates, critical infrastructure, particularly in sectors such as energy, transportation, and communications, faces increasingly complex cyber risks. At the same time, AI and other digital technologies offer new opportunities to enhance threat detection, incident response, and system resilience. Striking the right balance between innovation and security has therefore become a shared priority for governments, industries, and society as a whole. Against this backdrop, today's webinar provides a timely platform to reflect on emerging risks, share practical experiences, and explore concrete approaches for strengthening cybersecurity readiness through ASEAN-Japan cooperation. The discussion will touch on policy alignments, capacity building, and the role of collaboration across public, private, and academic sectors in addressing evolving cyber threats. We are grateful to our ASEAN-Japan Young Experts Research Fellow, Dr. Alpha Presico, for presenting his research findings on cybersecurity readiness in the age of AI, drawing on case studies from ASEAN member states. We also extend our sincere thanks to our distinguished speakers, Professor Kalamula Ramri of University of Indonesia and Professor Yoki Kadobayashi of the Nara Institute of Science and Technology, for sharing their expert insights and perspectives. Furthermore, we thank Mr. Mark Brian Manantan, Director of Cybersecurity and Critical Technologies at the Pacific Forum, for his excellent moderation and guiding a rich and engaging panel discussion. Finally, we thank all participants for joining us today. We hope this session will provide meaningful dialogue, encourage knowledge exchange, and offer practical takeaways for strengthening cybersecurity readiness across ASEAN and Japan. Thank you very much, and we look forward for an engaging and productive discussion.
Thank you very much, Director Chairat. Let me briefly set the stage for today. This webinar will feature the work and outcome of our ASEAN-Japan Young Experts Fellowship Program. Today, our 2025 AJF Fellow, Dr. Alfan Prasikal, will present on AI's role in strengthening the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure, focusing on the energy sector. Dr. Prasikal is an assistant professor at the Computer Engineering Department of Electrical Engineering Universitas Indonesia. He's also a member of Indonesia's Cyber Awareness and Resilience Center. His research interests include cybersecurity, operational technology, artificial intelligence, and cyber physical systems. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Alfan Prasikal, a 2025 ASEAN-Japan Young Experts Fellow.
Thank you. Thank you, Katarina. Thank you for everyone, especially for all the professor and the moderator for participating in this event, and also for the audience. So I will just start my presentation. Okay. I hope my presentation is visible right now. And so now I would like to present regarding the result of the investigation about the ASEAN and Japan cybersecurity readiness of critical infrastructure in the age of AI. So I'm Alvan Presekal. This work is supported by ASEAN Japan Center within the program, Young Expert Program, Young Expert Fellowship, and then I have been working for this program since August 2025, and then try to investigate this objective regarding cybersecurity readiness on critical infrastructure. Before starting the main content regarding the result of this research, I would like to start with the related reports. So maybe we already familiar regarding the topic of cybersecurity, and it's have been emerging issue in recent years. But recently, if we look into more detail, there is some issue, more specifically regarding the cybersecurity, specifically for the critical infrastructure, operational technology, or cyber physical system. And this issue has been become a worldwide attention across the globe. Many countries, many cooperative region try to uh, address this issue. And this is the report for several countries. And actually, in between ASEAN and Japan, there has been a report from area regarding operation technology security in ASEAN specifically. And this research is trying to dig into different perspective, especially in the research gap that try to be identified. The first is regarding the readiness index, and therefore this research aim to formulate what is the gaps for these topics, and then OT cybersecurity readiness, ASEAN and Japan, and how AI as an emerging technology can be involved in this term. And this research question is regarding the cybersecurity readiness. How ready ASEAN and Japan to address this challenge about the gaps and what vulnerability exists in terms of the cybersecurity of critical infrastructure. And the second one is regarding AI. How AI can be leveraged to enhance cybersecurity in ASEAN and Japan critical infrastructure. This is overview of the research timeline. Has been started since August, and now is the final phase. We preparing the final report, and also the 2 days, the day of presentation, the dissemination. And based on our study, literature review, first we try to identify the cybersecurity readiness. What parameter, what feature can be used for the cybersecurity readiness? And this is based on the literature review. And based on this, there are six elements that can be considered as a cybersecurity readiness indicator. The first one is about monitoring capability that represent the capability of the let's say stakeholder, company, or maybe entity to be able to detect the monitor in case there is some kind of a cyber incident. And it's strongly related with the parameters such as like mean time to detect or MTDD and mean time to response capability. And the second one is about data quality. And because when we talk about the cybersecurity or assessment of this issue, first of all, it need to be addressed is about the availability of the data. before making decision, data is the main things to see before formulate any policy. Uh, and then the third one is regarding the human resource, which is like main critical. And I will highlight more regarding this later because this is one key factor. We know that there is a principle like people, process, technology, and this is the people, which is human resource. That's really critical if we want to assess about the readiness indicator in terms of readiness, cybersecurity and critical infrastructure. And the fourth one is about this infrastructure modernity, and this is related to the facility, what's available in the company. And the fifth one is about policy alignment, how maybe in the context, especially in the national or the regional level, this policy try to align with the objective of improving cybersecurity readiness. Uh, and the finally is about the incident coordination. So after the policy, next one is about the incident where uh, every stakeholder can coordinate how to respond. And this is really important also because we can see as ASEAN or Japan is not like say and single country entity. It's like regional. So it need to be in the effort of the toward coordinated mitigation, how to minimize the impact. And based on this six parameter, the surveys performed and using survey and also interview uh, from the respondents from Japan and also ASEAN, and we have some representative from the ASEAN countries, not all of ASEAN countries, but some countries are most of the countries already here, 7 countries, and then beside of that, the sector that represented with these surveys are related with mostly related respondent related from manufacture, financial sector, ICT, telecommunication, energy, transportation, and healthcare. With total approximately around 116 respondents. And some key finding from this result, uh, we have some results. For example, from the survey, the most represented country is Japan, and we have most of the responded from Japan. And it is next one is regarding the common cybersecurity knowledge. And based on the information, we try to get the information. Most of them still remain at the beginner level, based on the network we have. And then the next one is about the AI knowledge, and most of them can identify as a more intermediate, the respondent. And the next about cybersecurity maturity level, also they identify based on self-assessment as a moderate. And then OT incident planning response, but it is like say they say have the plan kind of how to respond it, but it's not really validated, not really tested regularly. And the key finding, I think, related what the survey is about the human resource, which related to skill shortage, limited resource, not only human resource, also about the concern about the budget allocation and others. But the primary things about the human factor. The next is about AI, how implementation of AI in the term of cybersecurity for OT, critical infrastructure. Uh, the answer mostly identify as a limited application. It's already think about it, but it's not yet really fully implemented yet. But it can be a potential solution for the use case. What the let's say audience think how to use AI. This is can be contribute in the first stage, the monitoring capability. The one of the indicator, the implementation is toward the threat detection of anomaly monitoring. And based on this survey, we also creating formulated some scoring value based on the data. And the result can be summarized in this slide. Yeah. So we identify 6 parameter previously, the readiness index, and we quantitatively assess, try to map the response from the every respondent and the result from the interview into scoring. So the score is between 0 and 5. 0 mean lowest, and then 5 is the highest, the best one. And this one, the result, I summary not specifically for the certain ASEAN country, but for average, all ASEAN countries that involved in the survey. As we can see here in the result, indicated that in general, Japan is, let's say, more mature, have a better maturity compared to general ASEAN countries in terms of, let's say, every aspect of the indicator. For example, monitoring capability, data quality and governance, and human resource, infrastructure, policy alignment, and incident coordination. With overall index, if we see ASEAN is around 2.18 and then Japan is through 3.15. And it's been said in general Japan is better based on this survey. And although this is relatively better, but if we see here, in general, the readiness for critical structure is not really fully implemented. And this has become issue, especially in the point of human resource that the lowest get the lowest sector. And this is the bottleneck factor is related with the human resource, with this 49.1% have this issue, and then also standard adaptation. Most of them is just siloed policy. And for the case, for example, just briefly to finish this presentation, in the case of this, the existing real cyber threat has been happening worldwide. Fortunately, there is no case that related with ASEAN or Japan reported, but this is the major thing that's happened in the world, for example. And I pick a sample for energy sector, power system, and it's increasing every day, every times, and the risk also improving. And what it means, how to correlate this one with ASEAN. Maybe if you see here, most of them is related in Europe or maybe in the United States. But when it's come, it maybe come to the opportunity come the threat to the ASEAN or Japan. And I make a sample how to see this one as a risk potential. If you see in the right picture is the network connectivity, power grid on Europe, it's really interconnected. How about ASEAN or maybe Japan? Something. If we see ASEAN existing currently, there is a connection of power grid between some countries in the green line, and in the future, it's projected there will be ASEAN super grid where the grid model will be interconnected, and it means that in the near future, possibly, if there is kind of cyber attack targeting this infrastructure, there will be potential consequence. Not only is regional one country affected, but also regional. It called as a phenomena called as a cascading failure. That this is a real risk, and we need to aware about it and try to mitigate this issue. And as a conclusion, we recommend some solution recommendation. For example, unified framework is important to prioritizing also critical infrastructure, and also preparing incident reporting for information sharing. And also the third one is AI governance that requires cybersecurity policy and certification. The fourth one is regional capacity and skills. And the fifth one is for improving, enable AI collaboration cross-border, especially between ASEAN and Japan. And the sixth one is to implement a joint cybersecurity roadmap, not only on cybersecurity, but also need to start considering about OT as a main challenge. And to close my presentation, I would like to give my acknowledgement for the AGC and then IDCARE for supporting the research, and also AJCCA, ASEAN Japan's Cybersecurity Community Alliance, and my department, Universitas Indonesia, and Prof. Kalamullah Ramli, Dr. Muhammad Salman, and Rudi Manto, Chairman of AGCCA, that's supporting this research. And during the opportunity, I also involved in the several event related to OT security, JICA Deloitte workshop in December that organized by my home university on also sharing knowledge with all stakeholders related with OT, cybersecurity, and critical infrastructure. Thank you, and that's all my presentation, and I will give it back to the moderator.
Thank you so much, Alfan, for a very compelling presentation offering your 6-point framework for assessing the readiness indicator of cybersecurity capacities in ASEAN and Japan. You have highlighted that human resource shortages and limited organizational maturity remain as key and primary barriers to cybersecurity readiness in the region. But how does that look like concretely on a national level? We now turn to Indonesia's perspective on AI, cybersecurity, and privacy, with a focus on building resilient digital systems. Our next presentation, Building a Resilient Digital Indonesia, will be delivered by Professor Kalamura Ramli from the Universitas Indonesia. Professor Ramli brings deep expertise at the intersection of technology, policy, and national security. He has held senior roles in the government of Indonesia, including as Director General of Post and Informatic Operations, the chair of the Indonesia Security Incident Response Team on Internet Infrastructure. He's also a co-founder of national initiatives, including the Indonesia Artificial Intelligence Ecosystem and the Indonesia Center for Cyber Awareness and Resilience. Therefore, please join me in welcoming Professor Ramli. Professor Ramli, you may begin.
Okay, thank you very much. Very good afternoon, because uh, we have a very limited time, so I um, would like to share my presentation. Yeah. Uh, okay, I hope you all can see my presentation. This is my presentation about building a resilient digital nation in the age of artificial intelligence. Challenges and opportunities. Particularly, I will see the special case in Indonesia, in my country. Yeah.
Professor Ramli, can we invite you to click on the slideshow so we can see your slides in full?
Oh, this is not a slideshow. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is already in slideshow in my. What about this? Could you?
Hold on, we're waiting for some. At the moment, we're still seeing your window screen,
Window screen.
Professor. Yeah, but in the interest of time, please proceed with your presentation so we can hear from your insights.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
This is okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, wait. Okay. Actually, this is my second time in dealing with the ASEAN-Japan cybersecurity community. The first one is in October 17. But this is my presentation outline. Actually, we will see the AI, cybersecurity risk and resilience of critical infrastructure through one of the study or report by the Economic Forum, World Economic Forum, and then cybersecurity issues in ASEAN and Indonesia, the importance of mastering AI-based cybersecurity and privacy protection, and research on AI and cybersecurity, in particular in my research group, and recommendation. This is a very interesting findings by the World Economic Forum, actually, in 2026. In 2026 is a new one. I think this is a new one about the AI. How AI deepening geopolitical fragmentation and the complexity of supply chains contribute to the big challenge, on cybersecurity. This is some findings that I think interested and relevant to this actually the webinar. So perception increase or decrease in cyber risk. Actually, World Economic Forum found that the AI vulnerabilities is very high, the highest one. That many respondents think the main factors in cybersecurity. And then from the private sector and public sector internal organization, as you can see here, public sector was perceived that they have insufficient cyber resilience. And then regional overview, it is also interesting that Middle East and North Africa, according to the WAF report, posing a very high confidence in national cyber response and critical infrastructure attacks. And then this is also CEO's view of cyber resilience. Mostly they are concerned about the third party and supply chain vulnerabilities. And then this is the CEO confidence in national response cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. 43% they feel confidence about their critical infrastructure capability to respond to the cyber attack, and 31% they are feeling not confidence. And then from the AI point of view, I think the most threat that they think very dangerous is data leaks, advancement of adversarial capabilities of the attackers, and technical security of AI system themselves. And then the trends reshaping in cybersecurity, we can see that AI actually having the opportunity to make the offense and defense bots become stronger. So if you employ AI in your system, that actually strengthening your defense, but also the attackers, they you will use AI actually to improve their capability, yeah, to make some disruption in our normal operations. So AI can be used by the offensor and defensor as well. Yeah. So this is impacts AI on cybersecurity. Actually, the wider attack surface and cyber harms to in the enterprise, enhanced cyber defense tool as well from the other sides, and more potent cyber attacks also from the attacker sides. Yeah, this is the impacts of AI actually that will develop in the upcoming years. Yeah. Also, we are concerned about the capability of organization to assess the AI tools, because AI actually is a black box. Yeah, when we use AI, actually we don't know the algorithm inside. Yeah, usually we should assess, yeah, whether the algorithm is correct or not, whether the data also is good data, clean data, or there are many unclean data actually in the database of the AI, yeah, used in their analysis. Actually, this is also the challenge for us if we are using AI not from our own development. Yeah. Main cybersecurity issues in ASEAN and Indonesia. This is actually the very interesting data. I got it from the Sankey orgs. Yeah, the thousands of devices inside networks infected with malware waiting for exploitation. And Indonesia, I think the most red ones. Yeah, this is the countries in ASEAN: Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia. Yeah, this actually confirm what I ever heard from the Association of ISPs in Indonesia, that the network in Indonesia, for example, is very much burdened by the number of devices that is infected by malware. So it makes our networks degrade our networks performance actually in Indonesia. Yeah. Indonesia, for example, is also still having challenges in privacy, because we have 2022 personal data protection already, but we are still waiting the the government regulations as the implementation of these law actually. Yeah. Kemudian we're also facing the lack of authority. There is really confusing in our government institution now, who has the power, the authority to enforce the law, yeah, to the people or to the stakeholder or shareholder that is now breaking the laws. Yeah. And then public education is still needed, because we are very low in privacy literacy, in particular in digital literacy, or privacy in digital world literacy. Yeah. So we believe that we should really improve our education, public education, so the people in Indonesia, in this case, could improve their literacy in protecting their privacy. And we have so many breaches which are unresolved already. then this is also our big challenge, and how to actually improve the industry and the people trust in our system, that many breaches will be followed up properly in our law systems. Yeah. So then it is now part of the university role, yeah, in AI-based cybersecurity. Yeah. So as already mentioned, that actually now AI have two sides. Yeah, we could integrate AI into our cyber defense system for threat detection, and protection, malware detection, for incident response, fraud detection, cloud security, predictive, and particular analytics. Right, is very strong. Yeah, having the capability of it is very strong to help us, to assist us to maintain predictive analytics in our system. Yeah, also in our cyber asset attack surface management. Yeah, and AI also could help us in vulnerability management as well. Yeah. This is, for example, the other sides of AI, that AI could be used to bypassing liveness detection through deepfake. And this is a big concern for our banking system, actually, because AI could be used, yeah, through their deepfake methods, could be used just to create threats to our banking system, to our funding in the banks. Yeah. Spear phishing also improved a lot. Then this is very interesting fact by Hoax Hunt, that AI performed 23% more effectively than human. After some time, they improve their capability of learning. Yeah. Research and AI cybersecurity in our research group actually trying to tackle a few of these challenges. This is about data breach investigation, and this is about IOMT, yeah, Internet of Medical Things security. This is about the privacy preservation in vehicular ad hoc networks, and this is also about the data exfiltration, yeah, using machine learning. And then finally, my recommendation, we have 2 minutes. I really agree with the ISACA actually. When we talk about digital transformation, we talk about digital economy, we talk about digital businesses. There are many sector now, they declare that they want to transform their business into digital. They want to transform their government into digital government. But one particular important view from me is that once you become digital and the threat is there, yeah, you cannot run from that threat. The threat is already there when once you become a digital. So according to Asaka, we have to use a risk management approach if we want to be safe in our digital world. Not really safe, but to be able to tackle the threats, yeah, for incident response, incident mitigations, and also to improve our resilience in this world. Yeah, strategic risk, operational risk, cyber risk, legal and regulatory risk, supply chain risk, and governance risk. This is all what the ISACA recommend to us, and I will fully agree with this one. Yeah, and then it is also important for our university to keep innovating in AI and cybersecurity, education, research, and development. Innovation in AI and cybersecurity is crucial as cyber threat evolves. AI-powered solutions are becoming essential for enhancing threat detection, automating security tasks, and improving incident response. A key focus is on leveraging AI to predict and prevent future attacks by analyzing vast data sets and identifying emerging transport. So that's all from me. Thank you very much. I return to the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Ramli. This echoes the earlier presentation on the need or remaining gap on the human resource and capacity building. And therefore, there is very much a need to integrate governance, to increase privacy protection and continuous innovation in this particular field. To better understand what Japan is doing, we're now turning into Dr. Yoki Kodabayashi on his talk on strengthening cybersecurity for critical infrastructure, focusing on shared frameworks and regional cooperation between ASEAN and Japan. Dr. Yoki Kodabayashi is professor at the Nara Institute of Science and Technology and head of the Laboratory for Cyber Resilience. Professor Kodabayashi leads the center and the laboratory and works closely with global research communities to advance cybersecurity. Beyond academia, he brings more than 20 years of experience supporting ICT regulatory agencies in Japan as a subject matter expert. He has also helped develop cybersecurity education programs across academic and industry sectors in Japan, contributing to a strong national talent base. In this presentation, Professor Kodabayashi will discuss Japan's initiatives to strengthen cybersecurity governance for critical infrastructure, with particular attention to policy, incident reporting standards, and capacity building. Professor Kodabayashi, you may now begin your presentation.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you and hello everyone for joining this webinar. So I would like to briefly address many aspects as requested by the ASEAN-Japan office in 12 or 14 minutes. So as the moderator mentioned, I have been working on cybersecurity for more than 25 years by now. And so this is something we have been doing, and most of these are only documented in Japanese. So you may want to rely on Gemini or ChatGPT or Anthropic Claude, and those AI actually is multilingually capable, so they can parse our documents and give you some highlights on what we have been doing over these 3 decades. So I'm briefly touching all those dimensions as requested by the ASEAN Japan office, and I actually invite you to raise some questions if you have any imminent need. So let's go to the next slide. I hope it's visible. So regarding policy alignment, I actually was also going through those quick deep research regarding what ASEAN and Japan has been doing together, and finding out that there are a lot of policy agreements like ASEAN Digital Minister Meetings agreements and ASEAN Ministerial Conference on Cybersecurity (MCC), which has been guiding us to develop our cyber capabilities in ASEAN. And also there is coordinating bodies like ASEAN CC, ASEAN Cybersecurity Coordination Committee, and also we note existing deliverable from ASEAN Digital Minister Meeting, which is ASEAN Cybersecurity Cooperation Strategy. And we are now anticipating 2026 to 2030 roadmap from the last minister meeting in January. So with these, we actually see some regulatory developments, which actually I think it's very important. And we also have some kind of concerns based on our past experience. For instance, in the privacy space, we had some regulatory divergences on privacy. For instance, the privacy law in Thailand and privacy law in Indonesia, Malaysia, they had, they were common agenda, but the final, detailed implementation has a very different, particular clauses. So many Japanese businesses has been, having, kind of challenge of working across different regulatory landscape within each of those ASEAN countries. And we also note that these regulatory divergence and also ongoing policy dialogue resulted in APEC CBPR, which was resulting comprehensive privacy regulation proposal from the APEC. And also there is ongoing regulatory coordination regarding more compatible or more compliant and easily implementable privacy framework across ASEAN, which is under discussion in ADPPF. And I think these policy discussions are very important. And we also see these kind of things resulting and resonating in the cyberspace. For instance, there was mention of NIS2 directive in EU and also GDPR in Europe, for instance. And there is also US state laws, and there's a lot of discussions in, for instance, Africa and the Middle East, for instance. And so the end result of this, regulatory divergence is that we have some similar regulatory divergence within the cyber regulation. For instance, instead of having unified framework like a privacy framework for ASEAN-wide economy, we have now, ongoing debate, and this has been taking for more than 10 years by now, because the initial ASEAN PDP has been declared in 2016, and now we are in 2026 and still having some kind of complaints from businesses saying we need to have time to comply with all of those different state laws from ASEAN member states. And if this continues in cybersecurity, we will have different laws similar to like Japanese active defense law or European NIS2 directive or US laws. So I think the policy alignment is very, very important agenda. But in reality, we see businesses still, challenged with this kind of ongoing policy dialogue and policy level divergence. And I think national sovereignty is a very important agenda. And I agree that we need to respect each country's agenda, each country's cybersecurity policy, and the way it's implemented according to the existing businesses and customs and existing regulations. So yeah, this is I would say it's still an ongoing challenge. And regarding incident reporting standards, we also note some regulatory regional activities. For instance, ASEAN Regional CERT has been established, and there is incident information exchange mechanism among ASEAN CERT, and there is even ASEAN Threat Incident Drill, ACID. I think these activities are very good best practices to establish and share the incident reporting practices. And also, we note there is huge activities going on within the International Forum of Cybersecurity Experts, which is FIRST, Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams. So this group has been existing for more than 10 years, and it's a kind of a global cooperation. And there's a lot of CERTs, Japan CERT and US CERT and the European national CERT has been joining forces in this FIRST to share best practices including CBSS. Maybe you are familiar with CBSS, which is a scoring system for cyber vulnerability. And this has been established in FIRST. And then it was brought into ITUT for standardization. And so these non-profit groups actually having some kind of standard developing power. They have capability and the capacity to develop best practices and standards. So the question is how to empower these global bodies and invite ASEAN member states to have a broader participation into these standards and non-profit expert groups. And if you look at other regions, for instance, Japan has sector laws. So we had a lot of recent developments in national law for improved cyber defense and the cyber resilience. The Active Cyber Defense Act is one of those. And there are 4 or 5 other laws which was recently enacted within recent 2 or 3 years in order to significantly bolster our cybersecurity preparedness. And and EU has been also leading this space likewise, and NIS2 directive is one of those most commonly known regulatory instruments in the EU to give better visibility into the situational, incidents and give us better situational awareness. So NIS2 directive actually mandates us to report cyber incidents to each of those member states search and National Cybersecurity Authority within, I think it's 24 hours. And this is actually very, I would say, a groundbreaking mandate in the cybersecurity industry. Because in order to, give the report to officials within 24 hours, you have to have a certain level of preparedness and a certain level of capability, as well as existing links with professional network to have triage and detailed incident reports, forensics, etc. So likewise, US has SEC direct disclosure regulation. So this is toward Securities Exchange Commission. So most of those publicly traded companies in the US has to also meet this kind of cybersecurity disclosure. Like you have to go through triage and detailed incident reporting and impact analysis, etc. And you have to do it within 4 days. And they also have something called Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act. So this is also going to be enacted somewhere this year. And this actually covers a broad range of critical infrastructure industries. So with those regulations and regional activities as well as global activities going on in our perspective, we actually see these regulatory divergence actually happening also in ASEAN. If you do some deep research using Gemini or ChatGPT, etc., you can quickly identify each of the national laws in ASEAN member states only to find out there is a certain level of divergence within the cybersecurity reporting regime. So from business perspective, this incentivizes cross-border investment because if each of these Japanese company wants to have a footprint in Indonesia, they want to have a detailed legal studies within Indonesia and likewise in Singapore and Malaysia, Thailand. So the added cost of doing legal analysis and added cost of having cyber preparedness in each of those cyber regime in each of those ASEAN member states actually disincentivizes to establish footprints, digital footprints in each of those member states. So this may be working against those common policy agenda of ASEAN minister meeting. So this is something we have to think about. And for regional capacity building, We also note regional bodies. I actually have been benefiting from our contact with AJCCBC, which is actually co-host of this event. And this ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center has been established in collaboration with Thailand government and ASEAN member states and Japanese government, especially MIC, Minister of Internal Affairs and Communications of Japan. And this was instrumental to reach out to those ASEAN member states from our perspective. And we actually visited Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand last year to have a broader reach into ASEAN member states cybersecurity experts. And also there is another instrument which was established by Singapore, ASCCE, and ASEAN Singapore Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. And one of their delegates also visited our center in Japan. So we actually have this kind of regional bodies being established and being empowered also to cover OT cybersecurity from last year. So I think these activities are going to be also ramping up going forward to cover a broad range of agendas, including OT and also AI threats and countermeasures using AI, etc. And we also note non-profit international groups and the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams. They actually offer technical colloquium across major regions, including developing countries. So they actually reach out to Africa or Middle East. Maybe they also reached out to Asia in the past. I think their first meeting was also once taking place in Bangkok, Thailand. I think I went there. And also there is another international group called OWASP, Open Web Application Security Project. So these two projects are actually exemplar of what's going on in experts bodies. I mean, non-profit international experts groups of cybersecurity. And they actually offer some seminars, technical colloquium, capacity building, like tutorials, in variety of topics like incident response and forensics, and also for OWASP, the focus is like web application security, like browser and digital information, and also AI security is one of the recent pillar in the OWASP documentation. And if you look elsewhere, in other regions like Japan, we have ICCOE, which actually have been trying to establish in Japan and building capacity in Japan for these recent 10 years. And we also have NICT, which is National Lab for Communications, which also has cybersecurity researchers. And there is also information sharing and analysis groups within the industry, which we call ISAC. So these national labs and the training centers and information sharing groups within industry has been instrumental to build capacity within each of those industry sectors. And also along with each of those diverse policy agenda like AI preparedness, digital government, and situational awareness in cyber, etc. Likewise, in EU, there is ECCC, EU-wide Cybersecurity Competency Center, and also ENISA, which is EU's agency for cybersecurity, and EXO, which is actually a private-public partnership. I mean, the industry in EU actually had a MOU with government Brussels, I mean, the EU, and they actually formed a group called EXO, European Cybersecurity Organization. And they actually are also instrumental in helping to fund those research activities and capacity building activities, and also to promote those policy instruments like GDPR and NIS2. And the US also has DHS and CISA, which I think you know already, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency of US, and they are very helpful. And each of these major economies also has ISACs, the industry organizations, like telecom sector has telecom ISAC, and the energy sector has energy ISAC, and railway has railway ISAC, etc. And aviation has aviation ISAC. So these activities are actually very important if you talk about OT, because the OT cybersecurity is actually about specialization, the specialized topics as well as the different priorities in each of those industry sector. And they actually contain their priorities very different from generic, I mean, ICT cybersecurity priorities. So from our perspective, so if we're going to envision establishing similar links like we have with Japan, EU, and Japan, US, our question is which national lab or universities can be reliable partners in each of those ASEAN member states? What about Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore? What about Vietnam, etc.? And we also work with people we trust. So this network of trust is very important. So we actually cover a lot of sensitive topics like how to, secure railway or how to secure telecom. And these actually can often touch some sensitive topics, which is actually not shared and discussed in public. And we need to have sector-to-sector trust, or we have to have some professional-to-professional trust so that we can deal with those sensitive topics. And we need to grow this kind of trustworthy community. And we have been doing this for 20, 30 years. And the question is how we're going to do that with each of those ASEAN member states for coming 10 years, 20 years. So this is one example we have been doing as an outreach program from Japan. So we actually are working at ICSCOE, which is Industrial Cybersecurity Center of Excellence of Japan. And we actually delivered Operation Technology Security Training in Bangkok, Thailand in July last year. And as you can see, we have a lot of participants from a variety of ASEAN member states. And we delivered hands-on sessions using the portable water plant, which is actually a rendition of very small version of OT system. And also we delivered scenario exercises and a lot of intensive question and answer and group work sessions, which was intended to build networks within professional within ASEAN member states. As you can see, the facilitators came from Japan, ICCOE, as well as experts from Thailand, Mahidol University, which I really appreciate their presence and help. So toward the cybersecurity architecture, which we can share across ASEAN Japan, we actually can build on ASEAN Digital Economy Framework Agreement. This framework agreement is very nice. And we need to build confidence in the ASEAN digital economy. And I think the previous speakers also mentioned a very useful, usable framework for us. I think we can use this. And here, the security is only one pillar. And I think privacy, security, safety, reliability, and resilience, all of these are important in the OT and civic engagement and the business context. And also, I need to point out that the digital divide actually manifests most vividly in cybersecurity. So many people actually just get onboarded onto those digital technology without, awareness of those cyber risks. But I think cyber inclusion is imperative regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, nationality, occupation, sector, and the workplace. And for some countries, I see this is a huge challenge. We still see this kind of challenge in Japan. So we actually have a lot of CTFs and training center seminars, etc. in rural area like Okinawa or Hokkaido, in addition to major cities like Osaka or Tokyo, Nagoya. And cybersecurity is not just secretive deep tech. Some people say, oh, cybersecurity is like highly sensitive and we need to protect it within single country like US or EU. But I think the cybersecurity is more like common agenda across all those countries, including those, small countries, big countries, and, small sectors and big sectors. So we believe that cybersecurity is a shared value. It's part of a social norm. So we shouldn't keep and hide most of those cybersecurity basics. Rather, we need to disseminate the basics of cybersecurity, like cyber hygiene being one of them, and make it more common, known, and practiced among industry as well as people of Asia. So we need to envision open and participatory cybersecurity for ASEAN people. So that's the key message from us. And then there is a question about legal framework. So privacy, should we wait for legal framework? But our answer is very simple. This threat is imminent and growing, like AI is generating threats daily. So we shouldn't wait for legal framework to start collaborating within the Asian regions. So we should mobilize all existing instruments to get prepared now, including universities and polytechs and competitions, trade shows, scholarships, and interns, exchange students, venture capitals, accelerators and industry parks, training centers, and national labs. And I'm sure many of the audience here has some of the leadership in one of these organizations. So I think it's a question of priority. If you, being a manager of any of these organizations, have a bit of priority question, give it priority. I mean, give cyber priority so that you have more cyber-aware people going forward, and that will actually have your country well shaped within 5 years. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kadobayashi, for highlighting this very important finding across the region that while there is digital divide across the region, certainly the role of public education and awareness on cybersecurity and cyber inclusion will still emerge as a primary point of action. We now move to the panel discussion, where we will bring the discussion and conversation to more concrete terms between our speakers. And it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Mark Brian Manantan, the inaugural Director of Cybersecurity and Critical Technologies at the Pacific Forum, and current Research Fellow at La Trobe University. Mr. Manantan leads a wide-ranging portfolio on cybersecurity, AI, and critical technologies in the Indo-Pacific, including initiatives on cyber ASEAN capacity building, U.S.-Japan and U.S.-Korea cooperation, and trilateral dialogue on AI. With extensive experience bridging policy, technology, and regional security, and deep engagement across the Asia-Pacific, Mr. Manantan is well placed for navigating our complex discussion for today. So now, Mark, over to you.
Thank you so much, Katrina. Allow me to first thank the organizers for the opportunity, to the ASEAN-Japan Center for allowing me to moderate this very interesting and timely topic. I also would like to express my sincere thanks to the ASEAN-Japan Cyber Capacity Building Center for supporting this event. And before we dive into the panel discussion, I think it would be critical for me to provide some high-level key takeaways from the three speakers and their three presentations that we just had. I think first we had our ASEAN-Japan Young Leader Fellow, Dr. Alvan Presikal, who discussed his research focusing on identifying the gaps on cybersecurity readiness and critical national infrastructure with a key focus on the energy sector, where he asked the opportunities and challenges on how we can leverage artificial intelligence. And in his research, he has showed us the widening gap in or within ASEAN member states in terms of their readiness in critical national infrastructure protection, and also providing us an overview on how Japan is grappling with the challenges of protecting its critical national infrastructure. And he has presented a framework that tackles critical insights on how critical national infrastructure currently is being protected or underprotected in both jurisdictions. In his conclusion and recommendations, he identified the need to create a unified framework for classifying and prioritizing critical infrastructure, emphasizing the need for regional capacity and skills through joint training, certifications, and exercises, as well as the need to enable privacy-preserving AI collaboration for cross-border threat detection. And finally, implementing a phased joint cybersecurity roadmap. Moving into our second speaker, Professor Ramlee provided us with a national perspective, contextualizing the conversation today on the importance of artificial intelligence and the vulnerabilities it brings into the context of Indonesia. And as Professor Ramlee mentioned, artificial intelligence is a double-edged sword. It can enhance our cyber defenses, but also offers a wide range of opportunities for malicious actors to enhance their offensive capabilities. In his presentation, he highlighted the growing concerns on deepfakes, particularly, I think, in the context of Southeast Asia's rapid integration or adoption of e-commerce and other online services, and also the proliferation of online scams as a key issue. He also mentioned that a lot of the malicious actors are devising or utilizing artificial intelligence to fine-tune their spear phishing emails or campaigns to lure potential targets into malicious cyber activities. He mentioned that the networks of Indonesia is infected with malware, and the country is also grappling with challenges in relation to the lack of a whole of government approach in terms of coordinating cyber readiness. And finally, he concludes his presentation by identifying a digital risk management framework that focuses on digital literacy, supply chain risks, as well as governance risk. And finally, our third speaker, Kadubayashi Sensei, has pointed out a more of a regional perspective in terms of the growing alignment and also some misalignment between Japan and ASEAN as far as regulatory frameworks are concerned, and how the divergence among or within ASEAN member states as far as regulations and cybersecurity, data privacy and security has become a barrier to most Japanese businesses in expanding across the region, where most Japanese companies often tailor fit or customize their approach and their approaches to the fragmented regulatory landscape in Southeast Asia. He also mentioned the opportunities and challenges of artificial intelligence as far as the growing incident reporting standards, the existence of regional bodies and activities, particularly the formation of the ASEAN Regional CERT, the ASEAN CERT Incident Drill, as well as other engagements and initiatives that are being pioneered by Japan, by the EU, and the United States on cyber incident reporting. And finally, he mentioned this very core issue of trust, how we can further deepen trust in collaborating with institutions, with organizations, to make cybersecurity an issue that could be tackled from a very inclusive and diverse perspective. And to that, I hope I was able to provide a high-level summary of the presentation from our great three speakers. And I think I would encourage, as I facilitate the panel discussion, to all our audiences to please key in your questions during using our Q&A function. I already see some questions over here. And as we wait for more questions, I would use my privilege as the chair to start the discussion. And I think I'll like to direct my first question to the presentation of Dr. Pasikal. Alfan, it's great to see you once again, and also to finally hear the outcomes of your presentation. And I think on top of my head, thinking from the perspective of Southeast Asia, OT has been a growing concern, as you mentioned, given the rapid integration of OT in IT devices and systems across the region. But my question regarding the critical readiness framework that you've presented is, to what degree did you factor in the digital variances or the digital maturity among Southeast Asian countries in the framework in itself? Because as you know, a lot of the Southeast Asian countries are advanced. I mean, some of them are advanced in terms of their cybersecurity, some of them are lagging. And so how does the framework tackle that digital maturity variances among ASEAN member states?
Okay, thank you, Mark, for the moderator, and then I try to answer the question. So we use the framework with the 6 parameters to identify the gap readiness, and how does this can help in term of accelerating cybersecurity readiness. And first of all, I think what I identified from the research, from the survey, is most of the audience say that term of cybersecurity for the critical infrastructure, I think in general, in Japan or ASEAN, thinks that this is a new things. So maybe the guys who work in this, let's say, cybersecurity field, considering this as okay, I already know knowledge about cybersecurity, but when it's come to the new standard about the cybersecurity of OT, critical infrastructure, it's a different story. So I think with this framework, when I also discussed with several experts in this area, and what is challenge that's come, it is when I ask and discuss with them, and they say that the challenge, how you can how do you can let's say quantitatively assess, let's say how you can say the readiness. That's the problem. So therefore, first of all, this is like just the study with the limited time. We try to suggest the readiness parameter, and after that, we try to calculate the readiness based on the survey with the limited audience respondents. And with that survey, at least I think this can be like a preliminary study, because as we can see that during my presentation, the score, at least we see the gap, and mostly we can see within the score 0 to 5. Most of them say, let's say below 2, below 3, around 2 point something. And especially in certain aspect, based on the score, then it can be used to make a kind of a policy driven based on the data. So in the gap, certain area that have a certain lower score, it can be let's say input data for maybe policymaker for the ASEAN level, country level, Japan level, to make it put more effort. For example, in this case, that the most major thing is about the human resource, based on the research, based on the survey. It means that we need to improve the awareness about the cybersecurity of OT. That's quite different from the typical cybersecurity in IT. I think that's the overall for my answer, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Alfan, for that response. And I think it's very important to emphasize as well that the research that you've conducted is focused on the energy sector. And just a follow up on your question, you mentioned about human skills and human resource. To what degree is the energy sector among the ASEAN member states that you've surveyed has been responding to increased investments in capacity building?
Okay, first of all, maybe I need to clarify. So the survey is not like said specifically addressed for the energy sector. If you see my previous presentation, energy sector is just around like 8% from the respondents. So we also get the response from the manufacturer, ICT, financial, and other aspect. Yeah. For energy sector, I think to be honest, I tried to really get the challenge to find the respondent. Because when I try to put them, ask the survey, okay, this seems not related with me, cybersecurity. It's not really become in their table, the issue about cybersecurity. It's really difficult to find the right respondent for it. So I think in terms of this, because of the challenge, it's also related with awareness. It means that sector is not yet really focusing in the concern about the cybersecurity of their operation. Yeah, it's also actually, especially for cybersecurity, but the perspective I got, not only for ASEAN, based on my experience in Europe also, they think their operation is like in silo. It's really difficult for them to hack, to get hacked, to get attacked by cyber attacker. They tend to have like air gap system. This is when I discuss also with several countries, and they say this air gap, so it's most likely it's difficult to get attacked. This is what they say. But actually, in the fact, what I figure out that if we learn from the real case, what happened in other countries, for example, in the case of Ukraine, even the theory is air gap system, but actually the attack it can come inside the system and do the damage. This is my answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think I'll call on Professor Ramli next in looking at the opportunities that Indonesia, for example, Indonesian universities and research institutions can play in bridging the human resource capacity gap. So, Professor Ramli, what do you think are in the near term or medium term? What are some of the opportunities that Indonesia and Japan can pursue in terms of collaboration in raising cybersecurity readiness?
Okay, sorry, I unmute my audio. Thank you, Mark. Very interesting questions. And yeah, actually, research collaborations and capacity building initiatives can play a transformative role in helping Japan and ASEAN countries adopt AI-enabled cybersecurity tools more effectively, particularly within critical infrastructures. Yeah. As we are already aware, many Asian states are all at different stages of digital maturity, regulatory development, and technical expertise. Yeah. So this uneven landscape makes regional cooperations not just beneficial but necessary. Yeah. AI-enabled cybersecurity solutions are complex, resource-intensive, and highly context-dependent. Yeah. Without coordinated
Yeah.
research and institutional support, adoption risks being fragmented, yeah, and inefficient. So, and sometimes misaligned with local operational realities. So,
Mhm.
in my opinion, collaborative research initiatives between Japan and ASEAN countries could assist in to pool expertise, data, and also infrastructure study cases. Yeah.
Mhm.
Cyber threats, for example, targeting critical systems, yeah, such as attacks on power grids, oil or gas facilities, often transcends national borders. So by sharing anonymized threat intelligence, for example, operational data and best practices, countries can develop AI models that are better trained to detect regional attack patterns. Yeah. So joint research centers, cross-border cybersecurity labs can test AI systems in simulated industrial control system environments. Yeah. Reducing duplication of effort and lowering development costs. So such cooperation also promotes interoperability standards, ensuring that AI tools can function across diverse critical infrastructures within the region. That's all I think that I can
Mhm.
answer now. Mark.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Ramli. And moving on to Kadubayashi Sensei, I cannot shake off this question about what you raised in terms of national digital sovereignty that some ASEAN countries are raising. But at the same time, they also want to reap the benefits of digital economic integration. And this has been an ongoing, the tension between digital sovereignty and a digital economic framework agreement embodied in the ASEAN DEFO, which is expected to come online. So in your conversation across the region, there seems to be a sort of, I'd say, a policy misalignment, if I'm going to push the boundaries of my question, on what ASEAN wants as the collective and what individual ASEAN member states pursue at the national level. So, how do you think we can sort of narrow that gap in terms of what we desire in terms of a regional economic integration and fragmentation from a national, country perspective?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult question, and also I think it's a recurring question across all domains. Because ASEAN is trying to establish integration across all domains, maybe public health and logistics and aviation, and cyber is just one of them. Yeah, and I think, for instance, in Japan there is policy schools like KO and GRIPS, and they do policy, and they also do cybersecurity policy studies. And the question is how we can integrate those policy schools across Asia to exchange students or exchange researchers, exchange views, so that they have some rough consensus within Asia. So I think this kind of thing is, still, very small, I would say. There are some existing exchange programs and existing instruments, scholarships, etc. But, in terms of scholarships, the numbers are limited. But I think we need to reach out to those policymakers, decision leaders, and, operators across Asia to, intermingle and exchange their views to shape some rough consensus. And only with those rough consensus and the deliberation process across those civic engagement, we can have policy framework which can be supported across ASEAN member states. So largely, we are lacking such kind of foundational activities to nurture a shared vision of digitalized and ASEAN. Yeah, that's my answer.
Kodabayashi Sensei, I'd stay with you on this question about this is now for our colleagues from the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building Center. To your knowledge, what are some of the recent advancements that Japan has been doing to integrate artificial intelligence into the training curriculum or the offerings of the AJCCBC? Has there been a lot of conversations recently? Because I know it's been involved in digital forensics. During the ASEAN-Japan Friendship Commemorative Summit, there has been a meeting of all the ASEAN member states and AJCCBC as well. So with the theme of our discussion on AI, has there been recent developments that you'd like to share to our audiences as far as AI and cybersecurity is concerned?
Yeah, for instance, Japan is also investing a lot into, sovereign AI and sovereign cloud. So we have our own national cloud provider as well as a national AI provider. And so the intent is to have those digital, stack to solve those policy problems or societal problems within our own technology stack, including, energy and data centers and AI. And also, there is a lot of activities going on. For instance, in government space, we have a digital agency, and in the digital agency, there is a kind of oversight body for all those government use of AI. And I'm spearheading the committee, so I know those details. So part of those details are available on the public document. It's in Japanese, but with AI, generative AI, you can access those documents through machine translation and see what we are doing. Essentially, we are trying to have kind of visibility into what's happening in the use of AI, including like high risk use of AI. And for high risk use of AI in each ministry, we actually have kind of working groups to guide each of those high risk use cases so that each of those ministry, like policy ministry, tax agency can safely use AI without, breaching privacy or, abusing their power. So that's actually ongoing, and some of our activities are documented. But we don't have any, foundational framework. We only have AI law to promote AI, and other than that, we are actually going on an ongoing basis. And actually, the guiding instrument is actually subcommittee and expert groups.
Thank you so much, Kadobayashi Sensei. Before we have 4 minutes left for the panel discussion, and we are still waiting for some of the questions from our audiences. And I'm seeing a lot of questions, and I'll get into you in a couple of minutes. I'll just go back to Alfan again and ask the question. In terms of artificial intelligence, what are some of the sorry about this one. Sorry about that. So, Alfan, in terms of AI offers powerful tools for threat detection, but it also introduces a lot of new complexity. So, what challenges do operators face in deploying AI responsibly in critical energy systems? As you know, majority of AI technologies are from third-party contractors. And so how do you see the deployment of AI technologies that values and respects reliability, explainability, and trust?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mark. So I try to answer. So also based on my discussion with the respondent, they try kind of reluctant to using AI, especially for the critical infrastructure, because first of all, I think even we realize that no, the technology of AI, regenerative AI, is really sophisticated. I may say like that. But if we see looking into more detail, actually this kind of technology, advanced of AI, they really depend on the, let's say, digital data, generative content, text, something like that. But in terms of like connectivity, if we talk about like critical infrastructure or operation, it means that the AI is not just only looking into the, like say, data, normal data, typical data that they usually train it for, but they need to have more knowledge, especially for the domain specific, area specific that need to be implemented. I think this is the gaps that really I say main gaps become the main point of the problem in terms of the implementation AI for the context of OT, and therefore I think that's the first reason. And the other thing is about we know also AI is really hungry with the data set, and if we see there's the data for the purpose of the training AI, the availability of the data about the critical infrastructure it's also really limited compared to common data that's already well trained for. And this is the main challenge: how to make it implemented into the let's say operation of AI. And it may be possible, I think, to implement AI, but I think will not in the term of critical infrastructure, but it will not be as fast as what we have seen in the let's say operational in the office work, for example. We have it is already almost daily. We already use it, but in terms of it bring it to the critical infrastructure, I think it need to be regulated, need to be like step by step, and also really evaluated before it's really integrated to help the issue addresses some problem in the critical infrastructure. I think
Yeah.
that's my answer.
Yeah, before I turn into the questions that we have on the Q&A, I'll just like to press you further on your, I think there was a visual that you've shown about a potential cascading effect. Should there be a worst case scenario in terms of an attack on critical national infrastructure? In your conversation with some of the informants for your study, what would compel ASEAN? Are we waiting for a SolarWinds hack? Are we waiting for a huge, major cyber crisis for us to act in terms of really aligning our incident reporting standards? What do you think would compel ASEAN to really move fast in terms of OT security in the age of AI? What would compel? What would convince policymakers? Yeah, I think that's a question.
Yeah. I think in ASEAN is yet maybe there is some case, but it undisclosed. It is not really exposed yet. But I think if we want really it's accelerate that kind of process, need to be something triggering, some phenomena. I'm not really know because there is no limited case about that in ASEAN. But what I understand, for example, in the case of Ukraine, I think which happened near the Europe 2015, it's happened, it's affecting, it's causing blackout in terms of power grids. And after that, the policymaker in Europe, and they start to get, for example, on cybersecurity in Europe, there's name ENCS, European Network of Cybersecurity. They get fund, and then they start this organization, and also in the research funding in EU level policy, they start funding the research, especially focusing in the cybersecurity critical infrastructure. I hope in ASEAN we will not waiting until something happen, and then we can say be prepared before it really happen. So just preventive instead of like a cure after it's happened. So this is what I know based on my discussion experience.
Thank you so much, Alphan. I think we're now turning to some of the questions that our audience has posed in our Q&A tab. I think some of the questions are overlapping, but let's try to get them across, and then I'll probably assign it to a speaker who would be responsible in responding into it. But if you have some thoughts or perspectives as well, please don't hesitate to respond to. The first question is from Bin Nguyen. Are there any tool or survey questionnaire to help evaluate the readiness based on your framework? Alphan, I think you've already answered this, but would you like to? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am using like some kind of question. The question try to evaluate based on that 6 parameter, a question from the respondent. And if it's not yet published, I think, but it will be published in general when the report is released for this thing. So we are still finalizing the report, I think, for the time being, before the deadline.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it should be available in case that further question, it will be can contact me also in case any audience interested with this.
Yes, thank you for that. And the next question is, what governance and controls must be in place to manage the risks of using AI tools internally? Professor Ramlee and then Kadubayashi Sensei, would you like to answer this question? In terms of governance and controls must be in place to manage the risk of using AI tools internally, such as data leaks, model bias. I think this is all the current attacks on AI models, as well as from the viewpoint of an offensive use of AI in cyber capabilities. Professor Ramlee, what do you think can we do to manage the risk of AI?
Okay, thank you. AI system themselves have emerging vulnerabilities, yeah. As AI is deployed for predictive maintenance, anomaly detection, and load forecasting and autonomous automation, then I think new threat vectors arise at least, if I can, three, for example. Yeah. First of all, is lack of containment and governance. Yeah. So some energy AI installations lack network isolation, for example, meaning that AI system often run with broad access to critical networks, a massive attack surface. It means the attack surface is broadened. Yeah? Many systems lack emergency kill switches, for example, purpose binding or constraints to ensure that AI only performs in its intended role. Yeah. So a compromised AI agent with broad access could be manipulated by attackers to issue harmful grid control, for example, and exfiltrate sensitive operational data. The second, training data and model security gaps. A large proportion of organizations, for example, do not encrypt AI training data, yeah, or trace its provenance, yeah, meaning attackers could extract insights about, in the case of energy system, yeah, grid operations or model behavior patterns. So unsecured data sets used for model training can be data poison or manipulated, leading AI to make incorrect or harmful decisions. The last one is, I think, blind spots in anomaly detections. Yeah. So some of organizations lack AI-driven anomaly detections for their own AI system. So leaving prolonged undetected compromise windows. Yeah. So in my opinion, critical infrastructure are increasingly exposed, not just from traditional cyber threats, but also from AI-specific vulnerabilities. While AI promises significant improvements in threat detections, operational efficiency, without robust containment, governance, and data protections, and vendor oversights, AI itself can become an attack vector with high consequences, impacts on grid and national security. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, Professor Ramli, Kadubayashi Sensei, any thoughts on governance and controls?
Yeah, I resonate what Professor Ramli said. I think the technical controls are very important, and I think we should be familiar with all those problems as well as countermeasures. And also, this is like combination of strategy and tactics. So on strategic level, you have to have governance, and you have to also identify high-risk AI uses. Like for instance, what our government is doing, we are trying to identify, what kind of high-risk AI use is here, moderate risk, low-risk use is here, and we need to be, consulting with each of those use cases to reduce risk. And there can be a lot of jargons associated with tactical risk management controls. But overall, it's like a risk management strategy and a combination of risk management strategy with AI specific thing. And the AI is becoming more like web, like with model context protocol and the AI agents. AI things are becoming more connected and more automatic. So this is actually becoming more like early days of web security where we have secret injection, etc. So we should have some kind of education and capacity building, training, etc., awareness campaigns across the entire company, entire nation to safely use AI. That's my answer.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kodebayashi Sensei. Thank you, Kiran Shah, for that question. I think we move to this. It's a comment and also an invitation for collaboration, but also a question. As energy systems are increasingly embedded within broader urban digital ecosystems, how should critical infrastructure protection strategies adapt to smart city architectures where energy, transport, data platforms, and public services are deeply interconnected? I think this question points to the increasing shift towards smart cities. Alfan, and also I'll throw it to Professor Ramli and Kodabayashi Sensei if you want to respond on this. I think this is on the the growing enthusiasm as well in ASEAN for smart cities, and how do you think cyber OT plus AI can be leveraged to adapt into this growing trend?
Yeah. Thank you. So in general, I think smart city is more general. I think not only in terms of energy, but it multi-sector, multi aspect of implementation. So what we have seen maybe mostly is related with like critical infrastructure of energy. Also maybe, for example, the case other on power system, there is also was a case about the water facility. But in general, for the smart city, it's also similar, I think. When it's digitalization, we embedded the technology into the system, smart city. It's in the beginning, it's really helpful for us. But I think we need to start also considering about the risk, or the term of the cyber threat on cyber physical system. So when developing smart city, we need also start considering what is the risk in case that there is a capability to control the physical process in the city. For example, like traffic management, for example, and other aspect, monitoring, everything that are directly connected or working together with the physical system in the city. You need to be careful and carefully assess before, like say, fully implemented the technology of digital adoption into the smart city. And that's my answer. Yeah.
Professor Ramli, any response?
Yeah, okay. Okay, in my opinion, smart city is very relevant to the proliferation of IoT sensors, smart meters, and also distributed energy resources, distributed communication networks, yeah, communication switches and routers. Yeah. Um, so yeah, this also increases exposure of the threat, I think, because the threat comes could be from any angles in the smart city. Actually, the more you use the sensors, the more you use the computings, then the threat is there. Yeah, so the more surface that you have to protect from the attackers. So I'm really concerned about the risk of being uh, over networks. To become too over networks, then you have also to really invest properly in our risk management system. That's all, Mark.
Kudabayashi Sensei?
Yeah, I think just securing a smart city is more like a grand challenge. I think this needs all hands on deck. I mean, everybody, for instance, in car industry, energy industry, and building and house, data center industry, they need to work together. So it's like a question of a trust network among all those different critical sectors. So for many countries, I think this is something which is missing. So we are also trying to foster this kind of network of trust among critical sectors through cybersecurity retraining program in Japan, which is actually touching all those critical sectors in Japan. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kadubayashi Sensei. I would sincerely apologize to all our attendees who have submitted their questions, but we're running out of time. But surely you can come back to the ASEAN Japan Center and you can look up the information or the presentation from our three speakers. And for sure, they would be very keen to engage with you after this event. And I think I'll just end up by acknowledging the effort that ASEAN and Japan has forged since 2009. I think that's the very first policy meeting that they had on cybersecurity. And we are reaping the benefits of increasing collaboration and cooperation between ASEAN and Japan. But also, we are seeing that there are more challenges ahead of us with the proliferation of artificial intelligence, with the adoption of Internet of Things, and also as we move towards the Internet of Everything. And to that, I would like to thank Professor Ramli, Alfan for the presentation, and also Kadubayashi Sensei for the very insightful presentation. I will now turn the virtual floor to our colleague in Tokyo, Katrina, to the ASEAN Japan Center.
Thank you so much to our panel speakers for a very dynamic and insightful exchange. Despite going beyond our time, we are very thankful for the audience who have actively engaged with us with your questions. And just to let you know that the live stream of this webinar is available on our YouTube channel at ASEAN Japan Center. Also, we will be releasing a webinar report within 2 weeks' time, so please check our website, http asean.or.jp. And with that, we thank you for joining us and we welcome your feedback. Please do not forget to respond to the survey that will be sent to your email addresses immediately after you close this webinar screen. With this, we would like to thank once again our audience and our co-organizer, the ASEAN-Japan Cybersecurity Capacity Building, for bringing us today's webinar. Thank you so much, and we wish you a good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.